Your life to that we are live. And we are going to take a look at H211. This is sent to us from economic development. Here is here. Okay. If we give you a minute, catch your breath.
Yep.
Here once again, these
See, can't get the spit out.
whistling over there. You mentioned right here. This is blowing, but this is down there.
Yeah, I think it's this floor that.
I mean, I heard that's it. They are encouraged by these two. Stop worrying, Tom? Yeah.
They both are maybe different words.
Lots of worrying. All right. None of them come. Glad you want your mind. That's the words I find right now. Back. All right. So Rick.
Madam Chair, I'm in the Zoom, so I'm ready for you.
Okay. Do the 20,000 what you
That was my
asked. So we get to the fees. It looks like there's some significant fees in here. That should be our.
Significant fees, accurate assessment. So Madam Chair, Rick Sable with the Office of Legislative Counsel. H211 is a 43-page bill that substantively updates the data broker system we currently have in Vermont. Just giving you the 10,000 foot view plain English here. Vermont requires data broker to register under current law, and that's just about it. They pay $100 fee. There's not really any major regulation of data brokers, except that if you operate in the state, meaning that you buy and sell Vermonters data as a data broker, then you should register as such and pay the fee. So this bill expands the definition of what is a data broker, because the argument is that there are several entities that are not being registered in Vermont. I think Scott may have the numbers, total number of data brokers. So some definitions are updated to capture in the minds of some more entities who are data brokers. It expands the definition of what is brokered personal information, the things that they buy and sell, the consumer data. But for this committee's purposes, I think I can at least show you the language that revolves around the fees and the penalties, if that makes sense.
That would be good.
Okay. And of course, happy to answer questions about the rest of the bill, but the fee section. So I'm going to go to the as passed by the House because the Senate did not amend, the Senate Economic Development Committee did not amend any of the fees or penalties. So I'm looking at page 29 of the as passed by the House. 29. Okay, so this is subchapter 5. This is the data broker subchapter. You see, the language has been amended quite a bit. The current law says you must register on January 31st, on or before January 31st, following a year in which you become a data broker. The House decided to clean it up a little bit, and now you must register within 30 days of becoming a data broker, and then once annually every July 1st with the state of Vermont. So you register with the Secretary of State. They already have that system in place. The registration piece, the fee goes from 100 to 900. Yes, that is a large jump. 3, maintain a bond of $20,000, and you'll see why. There are some pretty major penalties if the data broker violates this law. They must, in subdivision 4, provide the following information about the data broker to the Secretary: their contact information, email, phone number, website address. Subdivision B is opt-out language has been moved to a different part of the bill. I'll show you where that is. Subdivision E is new. Whether the data broker collects various information, this is mostly sensitive data. including precise geolocation, reproductive healthcare, migrant data, immigration status. Again, data that consumers would deem to be sensitive in nature. Also, your name, date of birth, zip code, email, phone number, account login, account number, along with security code, access code, passwords. Your government ID, driver's license number, state ID, social security number, passport number, military ID, and other unique identifiers. And again, this is whether data broker collects it. They don't have to say in detail, they just have to say yes or no, we collect this information as of right now. Mobile advertising ID, whether they sold or shared consumer data to various entities, including a foreign actor, the federal government, other state governments, law enforcement. The three most common types of data that they select. A copy of their bond that they should have posted. A URL this is changed in the Senate, by the way. The House version includes a way for consumers to delete their data. The Senate Economic Development Committee removed that, so there's some language here that will reflect that in the Senate report.
Secretary of State said so. Yeah.
Whether the data broker convinces a consumer to opt out of this databases, the procedure for requesting an opt out, if the opt out applies to certain activities, whether the data broker permits a consumer to authorize an agent to perform the opt out, and whether or not the data broker regulated by the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Okay, the next fee is new, subdivision 5. They have the right to amend an existing registration upon the payment of a fee of $100. Currently, there is no procedure for that in law if they want to amend the file. Subsection B, penalties. The current law, when it comes to penalties, is just failing to register. So if a data broker is doing business in the state and they fail to register as such, they would face a penalty of $50 per day that they don't register, not to exceed $10,000 per year. And then you see the other language struck through an additional fees that were due and any other penalties imposed by law. So new language, other penalties added in this bill is an administrative, if they don't register, a fine of $200 for each day. So that goes from 50 to 200 if they don't register. B and C are the same, relatively the same cost and fees if they don't collect. 2 is new. A data broker that fails to provide all registration information shall file an amendment, not later than 30 days after discovering or receiving notification of the omissions, and is liable to the state for a civil penalty of $1,000 per day each day that they don't follow the amendment. If they file materially incorrect information in the registration, there's a civil penalty of $25,000, and if they don't correct that information within 30 days, a civil penalty of $1,000 per day that they fail to correct the information.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, sorry.
Sorry, I have no idea how much money data brokers make. I don't understand their financial, portfolio, whatever. This all could be chump change for them, for all I know. And what is, it is, okay.
I can't speak to that.
I was just wondering if there's testimony on whether or not it's adequate to actually, change their behavior.
Oh, I don't know if this isn't change behavior, this is just, and I've asked to have, I think it'll be John.
Okay.
Come over and talk to us about the Secretary of State and we're gonna get it going fiscal.
Okay.
I don't think I'd get the Secretary of State here in the next 20 minutes. And so I've asked if they could get someone here at 1:30. I have a committee and probably 3 of us to do it for one. Yeah, maybe we could meet again at 1:30 here and.
So, real quick question.
Yeah.
Rick, we got there. Rick, how much is 31? Yeah. That's the top Roman numerals seven.
Yep.
Where's Roman numeral 1 through 6?
So page 30. The previous.
All of the list.
Oh, okay, so those are subs. Okay.
Yeah, so. I was like, oh no, that's a major error,
Sorry,
which I have done.
Good people learn.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Okay,
You need to say what they don't have to tell.
it's a lot of it,
Yeah.
Okay.
all right. So we're on page 30, 34. Subsection C was removed by economic development. This is the deletion portion. They just felt that it wasn't the right time to do this. There's a study which Scott and I will talk about that would appropriate $50,000 to have the Secretary of State study the possibility of having a kind of governmentally provided opt-out, which California has. So I'm going to go over this subsection C, the deletion.
Yeah. We're gonna be lucky to give them money.
Understood. Okay, skipping down to subsection D. So C is very long. D, the consumer rights webpage. This was amended by economic development because subdivision 2 provides a deletion URL because it's no longer required. It's basically 1 and 3 that the Secretary of State shall provide a website that gives consumers information about their rights. This law. Enforcement is under the Vermont Consumer Protection Act. This whole chapter is subject to the Vermont Consumer Protection Act, including the section.
There is a private right that.
Correct, under this Consumer Protection Act, that's correct. No change to, there's a technical change in another section, but just changing chapter to section. Which it should not be chapter. Section 2 is that study I mentioned of the Secretary of State studying the feasibility of it's called an accessible deletion mechanism, which California just rolled theirs out a few months ago. Or if you're in California, you can go to their website, their state website, type in your information, and the state provides a process for you to kind of contact all data brokers at once and delete your data. So the secretary will study this type of system being brought here. It's very lengthy. I'll let you read that on your own. The report is due on for December 1st, 2028. Interim report due next December. And yes, the appropriation of $50,000 for consultants of that work has been proposed.
Okay.
And the act takes effect to give the Secretary of State time to build that system out January 1st of this next year.
So, up until now, I was on economic development. Originally, when we discovered we already had a register. And at that time, no one had even inquired about, who went after. I gather there have been a couple of inquiries since, but it was there, but apparently not well used or overly used. Yeah. So this is really updated as everything has developed and the number and the amount that data brokers collect. This is updating it. Maybe Scott, you could give us a fiscal, or you have a fiscal note, and then take it to the office, but can't.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's also the report of the economic development committee that makes some.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear that first? Okay. So there's a change to a definition that was requested to publicly available information. Again, it's not subject to any type of revenue, that's just defining what is publicly available information. The second and third instances are technical corrections, nothing of substance. The fourth change is what the exact deletion right of consumers. The fifth is, because that deletion addressing the pre-lettering of the section, as the consumer rights information, that because you take away the deletion, you change what the Secretary of State shall provide on the website. I mentioned that as well. Adding a definition of consumer that aligns with the S71 bill that's making its way through this chamber. And what would affect potentially revenue is you currently have a cybersecurity advisory council that was created a few years ago. So this amendment would add 3 members to this council: the chair of the House Committee on Energy and Digital Infrastructure, the chair of the Senate Committee on Institutions, and a representative of the judiciary appointed by the Chief Justice. I believe the request is because there isn't currently anybody on the legislature or judiciary that is on this council request. The 9th is extending the sunset of that council to 2033. Currently set the sunset in 2028. And you may recognize this language. This is the education technology language from 650, H 650.
Oh,
Called,
Well, and you see what it is?
yes,
Okay,
yes. This is the start of this.
covenant, okay, thank you.
I'm fast. I'm fast
It's
about
like,
that.
wow, that's really short.
So this first language here is trying to get this in every bill that I draft. It's correct. So it's just changing subchapter. This is where the ed tech language begins. Subchapter 3. The difference, so 650 as it came to you all, I think it's still on your wall actually, has the ed tech registration. You may remember it included the chatbot clause and included a working group to study ed tech. Those last 2 sections are removed. They're not in this. So it's just the ed tech registration with the Secretary of State, similar to the data flow. So if you are a ed tech product, it means any software application or platform that they collect, process, or transmit student data used for teaching and learning purposes in a school in Vermont. It does not include hardware or other, and this was not in your version. This is an amendment from the Economic Development Committee. It does not include hardware or other physical devices or a product that is being used in the school without the knowledge of the provider. So the intent there is to.
The kids are still got their phones in.
Well, I think I'll maybe let Senator Chittenden explain the intent of the.
Okay, so the previous definition, and it was exactly that in some ways being okay, would have really caught a huge universe of websites out there that absent this change, anybody out there with a website that has Google Ads or Google anything that shows an advertisement where they make money, they would be required to register, and that just seems extremely broad to the point where it would be expected that nobody actually would register because it would just be a broad range. So this small clarifying language is also consistent with what the Rick has said is in other parts of our law, and also comparable to what California has, which it just says products that are in fact known to be used in school are needed to be registered.
Rick, can we go, we have time line by line on this from the beginning?
Yeah.
So it starts with the definitions.
Right.
Okay. Would you like to lead us through?
Well, I read that one.
Yep.
So
Okay.
just when that, so kind of set the stage for what an ed tech product is. This definition has gone through a few different iterations. You know, it came in the House. I think it said student facing software, and that was changed in Senate Education to remove student facing. You heard Senator Chittenden further limit that definition to exclude hardware, which I don't think was, necessarily would be the intent of that. But this one,
Can I ask another question?
Yeah.
Is there anyone in this room, does anyone know why this is not being collected by the AOE? Because I'm pretty sure in the old days, granted there were fewer products, but I feel like the AOE used to track all of this. And it seems like they're obviously not doing it anymore. And I'm just wondering why. Does anyone know?
can't speak to that.
No, correct.
that could be a long list.
It would be a long list, but it seems like it should be part of their purview as the agency of education to know what products their schools are using.
That's that. And of the education committee, yes, they. But that's,
Or they could have like a red, they could have a list of what's acceptable, and if it's not part of the list, then it's not it. So
but this is not ours, and
I
I
know.
have really limited time.
I got it.
Okay, so, some of the language comes from the franchise bill we all passed where you have to register as a franchiser if you are doing business in the state franchiser. So in addition to all the requirements, if you're doing business in the state and you have an ed tech product, you also have to supply your name, your email, your internet address, and it's your privacy policy, the name of each school, and we draw operating pursuant to a paid contract.
That's gonna be work that the schools will have to engage in, right?
No, it's for the ed tech provider. The schools may be asked to respond by the ed tech providers confirming something, but they have no affirmative duty in this bill. That,
And I think what the bill, the original bill did here, was still sitting in here, I believe, up there on the wall. It's the last one we did. They didn't mind the registry. It was the group and it was,
Sign off, liability, principal, liability.
yeah, all of that, but just registering what was being used wasn't a problem. So it sounds like you took what wasn't a problem. And the bill, that bill was originally came out of, it didn't go.
It came out of House of Commerce, but when it came here, it went through Senate Ed.
It went to Ed.
The vote against
Okay.
us.
So that's what we've got. But our jurisdiction are the fees. And yes,
This is fine. So then,
Yes, 5-0, okay, we didn't have a chance to think about
Okay.
it thoroughly. I think it's 5-0, it may not be today, because I do have a question. Just in one area, that is the advisory council. Oh, it's not our area, but I'm just curious.
There is-
As to,
We went at one. There is, for cybersecurity, there is.
cybersecurity council.
Yeah, we went over that before you, I think you were.
Yeah, it's not here, but it's another. But my
Okay.
question,
We're gonna get the fiscal statement first. David Hall can be here at 1:30. We're talking about the fees and their adequacy, you'll only less than or more than. So we will be back here for a few minutes.
can I just ask one question right now?
Yeah.
That may be able to resolve beforehand. I noticed in the council that is, 3 positions are added. There's one from the House, one from the Senate, and then one from the district. My question is, and maybe you as the attorney can answer, is it appropriate to have a representative of the judiciary on the advisory council on something that we're all going to get sued about?
Maybe the hope is they can keep us from being sued.
Well, I understand, but is it appropriate to have a member of the judiciary? And do you know whether or not the judiciary was consulted
I don't
before this was added? Because I don't, from our perspective,
know in
it was not.
The judiciary has not been reticent to, and maybe we could give a copy of the bill over to. Yeah. Court or courting. Yeah, yeah, and, just asked if they have any comment by order of today. Forever hold their peace. Okay, Scott, Lana.
Good morning, good afternoon, Dave, Scott Moore for the fiscal office. In the interest of time, when we talk about the fees, Rick did a really good job of explaining the increase, the potential penalties and everything. What really matters for this committee, I think, from the fiscal point of view, is the increase in the registration fee. An increase goes from $100 to $900. According to Secretary of State David Hall, there are currently 283 registered dealer brokers. Attorney decree at $100, not to do math in public, $28,300. That if it's increased $900, you will go over $250,000 of potential annual revenue. I say annual revenue as opposed to fiscal because the fiscal year might not coincide with when they actually register. So like, for instance, if they register June, they have 30 days. It's that fiscal year 26, fiscal year 27. So that'd be about a $40 million of increase in those potential revenue. Looking at other states that have this, California, Oregon, and Texas do have some fees. Texas is $300 annually. Oregon is $600. California is $6,600. So Vermont being $900 is not an unheard of quantity. So with that said, that would be total revenue of $254,700 with the current number of registered data brokers. Data brokers registered in age market, you have more. That's the one big thing about this bill. Sectionally, this bill does have a $50,000 appropriation from the Secretary of State to do this financial study. I can tell you that the House budget construct, that $50,000 is in there. In the current iteration of the Senate budget construct, that $50,000 is not in there. So I'll have to do something for the Congress to work out one way or the other. And then lastly, this bill did add 3 members to the advisory council, and that would per diem they might get the none of this. So that was my fast 30 seconds.
Okay, that is perfect.
What is the $50,000 used for? I'll ask anyone in the room. Should still.
David is coming this afternoon,
Okay, so we can ask.
so he could tell us.
The language is consultant.
Sorry.
The language says it's for consultant that they would hire. to-
Well, it's for hiring. Putting out advertising and.
No, it's for, they're supposed to set up exploring what it would cost to set up a system where you could check in Vermont and find out
Of your data.
where your data is being used or shared. So there would be that was my understanding.
Yes.
So the $50,000 will go to the consultant.
Yes.
Right, okay. Okay. We will hear from David if he says they need all this money, which I think he will. We can plan on voting this. I hope I was this afternoon. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for everybody. Thank you. Okay, that's gonna talk to us about.
I
have a conference committee.
Oh, you have one.
Okay,
Gotta get first.
okay.
Yes.
I don't,
So Sophie Staffy for the Office of Legislative Counsel on S-278. So I'm just gonna mention very quickly at the very high level what the House did and then just talk about the fees. So they struck the increase in the single package size for cannabis, which was section 1 of the bill. They struck the delivery permit pilot program and then they curtailed the event permit pilot program. So before it was 10 public, 10 private event permits. Now it's at 10 public permits. And they restricted it to no consumption at the event. And only retail cannabis establishments can apply for the permit. Whereas before it was across the board. They struck the language around the municipal changes. But they retained the conforming language around removing integrated licenses from the statute. They added a new section, which was just to give the Cannabis Control Board the authority to enforce its administrative penalties in Superior Court, which apparently they didn't have before. And then it added some language around the rental, allowing what you can put in leases for residential rental units. So the language that came out of the Senate was around you could prohibit lighted cannabis. They added in products for inhalation as well. So if I could go ahead and share my screen.
so they didn't do anything to current use. I kept hearing this.
That's gone because that was in the municipal section.
Okay.
That's good. Same thing. there's nothing related to current use expansion or cannabis at all? Okay.
Okay.
Get that information.
I know that delivery thing was somewhat.
So I was going to section, 10A, so this was reducing the fees for outdoor cultivators in half, essentially half, one of them is not half, but generally half.
Did they touch that?
Yeah, so they didn't touch this section, 10A, what they did was change the effective date. So I can just jump in here. What you had in before was a contingency that if there was $105,000 that was given to the Cannabis Regulation Fund, then to make up for the difference in the fees, then this would go forward. So what this does is it removes that contingency, and now it just says that that reduction in the outdoor cultivator fees will take effect July 1 of 2027. So it just removes the contingency, but delays the implementation of it. And then the other change,
But that leaves this board without.
right, essentially what this will do is that gap between the revenues they take in and their operational costs will increase over time.
Okay.
And then section 13, that was language around switching from annual licenses for employees to biennial. It wasn't going to change the amount, they were going to pay twice as much, but have a 2-year license. And because of the IT side of things that's involved, the House extended the deadline for implementing that to July 1 of 2027. So those were really the big pieces, and then obviously the change in the number of potential permits under the event permit pilot program. So that's a very short high level summary of changes.
Okay, so basically, number of events which,
And who's eligible?
and that's supposed, isn't that, no, that money went to the cannabis board. I thought some of it went to the town.
It gets split with the municipality, 50%.
So some towns will have less revenue, but will have to provide less public safety.
Yeah, and the other thing that was the other piece of language that was added to the event permits in the House was to just make clear that an event had to be held in a municipality that has opted in to cannabis retail establishment. So you could, because that, I think it is implied, but it wasn't explicit.
Try to unity and
No more private events.
no more private events because they took out the consumption piece. And so it, like, you're not really gonna be selling, I don't think. The concept was more for weddings and things that people could consume. And so once you took consumption out, they took out private events.
My experience at weddings, there's a fair amount of consumption as it is.
yeah, I mean, that's a private event. It's not illegal. You use cannabis at a private event, is it? You can't use it in the public.
So it's
But as a
private
private.
event, that's not public.
Okay,
Crazy.
any other question? Yeah.
But the way that amount of revenue trying to get wise, that means just something deeper in depth than we were before.
Okay. Tech Barnett, going to fiscal office, and I'm gonna work from the fiscal note as it came out of House Government Operations. There are some slight changes that Sophie went through because some work was done through floor amendments.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, House GovOps, it went through GovOps here.
But not.
No,
it
it went through
through-
economic development.
Yep.
That's what I thought, all right.
Yes, so the main piece, as Sophie mentioned, is removing the contingency on the reduction of outdoor cultivator fees.
wanted to just show the table that was in the fiscal note, highlighting how that breaks out for different tiers of cultivators. So the lower the tier, the less amount of canopy space they're cultivating outdoors. And so it is the reduction of revenue would be kind of equally distributed between cultivators of all tiers, with the exception of tier 4. This is unchanged, but we've gone back in fiscal year 28.
That's like, what, 103,
About 105,000.
about 100 out of the revenue of the cannabis, right? That's why the contingency is there. So I guess we need to hear from the cannabis board on this one.
So could hear from the cannabis board. I think the other place, right, is so in FY 28, it would be part of the control board's budget, recommended budget. And so it would be part of the legislative process next year.
Okay.
But it's of course your prerogative to hear from the control board how it might impact the budget submission.
We don't even have possession of this one. It was asked if we take a look at it. I suppose we could say we're concerned. We understand that that would be expense next year's budget.
When did we set this? When did we set this?
We did this bill early
Oh, I know
on,
we did, but when did we get it back?
I think,
Recently.
yeah, just recently.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous to get a bill with this many policy changes. Back, I think 24 back, I think.
Not
It's not unheard of, but. So that's what it falls.
to get worse than this.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
The other piece is putting specific dollar amounts on the changes to delivery and event permits. So in the version of the bill that we all passed, it would have been a combined, it's not a lot of money, $6,500 from event and delivery permits to the regulation fund, $5,000 from municipalities.
Get a delivery permit with all the regulations. Vehicle, 2 drivers. We didn't suspect that would bring it. No, we're going on.
Yes, and so in any case, in both universes, the version that the House sent back over, the event permit was only $500 a pop, so minimal revenue, kind of either way you slice it.
They're gonna get hit for it. That's
So I think that's in terms of fiscal impacts, all around fees. Flagging essentially moving out the date for employee licenses, when that would be made biannually. It slightly changes the timing. It doesn't change the overall amount of revenue they would receive from licenses, but it changes about when they see that slug of revenue that everyone gets their first 2-year permit versus
okay.
seeing it annually, but more minor.
I think I could say on the floor committee that we have some concern about that contingency. The other one is how many events nobody was spending that money, but the contingency for lowering those fees, having that gone, you understand that they'll be slightly over $100,000 next year. There will be, present projection of shortfall in the cannabis board budget, and that will be dealt with in next year's budget. Okay. That one. Thank you. I think it's okay. Once we hear from the Secretary of State, we need to vote that bill out, so we'll all have to get together at 1:30. And Autumn is here. We're gonna meet again at 1:30, and I don't know if you're doing that. You're doing it, okay. Just to hear from the Secretary of State, and hopefully vote 211 out, and